For those who may be unfamiliar, Eric Greitens is the ex-governor of Missouri, and he's now running for Senate. So who is he? What's he all about? Let me play this clip for you from MSNBC. This is from Morning Joe. This clip's going to be relevant in a minute. So listen to what they have to say about Eric Greitens. They did a whole segment on him.
I want to remind our audience again about the comments retired federal judge J. Michael Luttig made last week.
J. Michael Luttig, by the by, is a federal judge who testified in the January 6th hearings that Trump actually tried to overthrow the government and we almost lost democracy and things like that. Like, he did a whole bunch of testifying for him. Anyway, he's an extremely influential, important, and notable conservative judge in conservative circles. So it was a big deal that he came out and said that at the hearings.
In the January 6th hearing, saying, quote, Donald Trump and his allies and supporters are a clear and present danger to American democracy. Keep that in mind. And I want you to see what a former governor of Missouri, now a Senate candidate, has put out in the new campaign ad that, like 100 other Republican ads this cycle, uses guns and incites violence against his primary opponents. Take a look.
So I was actually going to play the ad myself, but when I found this clip, when I was doing research for the segment, I realized they didn't play the ad, and they gave compelling reasons not to, so I decided not to play it either. So just listen to their description of the ad. If you're curious of what happened in the ad, just look it up. It's on Twitter, all over the place. Eric Greitens. His name is like in the description and other places, in the title of this video and everything if you need to know how to spell it. Just copy and paste into Twitter if you want to see the ad.
It's former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, who is vying to fill a vacant Senate seat in the state. And he released the ad yesterday, and we'll just show you video here. He announces that he's going, quote, rhino hunting.
If you're unfamiliar, rhino stands for Republican in name only, and it's the title that Trump gives to people, to Republicans who don't support Trump. So you're not a Republican if you don't stand behind Donald Trump, basically, is the whole bit here. So he says he's going rhino hunting in the ad. That's pretty obvious. And he's not in the wild looking for rhinos either. He's busting into a house in the campaign ad with a SWAT team.
The video depicts an armed Greitens bursting into a house alongside men in tactical gear. He also encourages viewers to, quote, join the MAGA crew and get a rhino hunting permit. Facebook parent company Meta says it removed the video from its sites because it violated rules about violence. Twitter flagged the video but did not remove it.
So hold on a second. So
yeah, he's
actually,
rhino hunting.
We can't show this ad, Gene. I guess. I thought we were going to show this ad because it's too violent. You have Greitens going in and kicking down a door with guns and tells everybody to follow him. And Rhino is basically, again, it's what really stupid people call other Republicans who disagree with them. And by the way, stupid people pre-Trump were even calling people rhinos. It's for moderate Republicans or Republicans that disagree with them on the insurrection. This is fascism.
I'm honestly kind of surprised to hear him describe it as fascism. But yeah, the bottom line is that Eric Greitens has exited free speech territory and entered inciting violence territory. And this is a disturbing road to go down. This is a disturbing state to be in as a country. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this should be illegal. He should be put in jail for this. My moral line is encouraging violence. Now, that line gets a little bit blurrier when you're dealing with things like stochastic terrorism. It's been defined as the incitement of a violent act through public demonization of a group or an individual. Stated another way, the term has been said to mean acts of violence by random extremists triggered by political demagoguery. So here's an example for you. Bill O'Reilly went on his show on Fox News every night and talked about Dr. Tiller. And Dr. Tiller was this family planning doctor that was working at like a Planned Parenthood or something. I don't know exactly. Maybe it was his own practice. I don't know. But he was doing abortions. And Bill O'Reilly demonized this guy every single night. Every night. Over and over and over again. Made up nicknames for him. Like Tiller the Killer and stuff like that. It got very, very graphic and dark quickly. Until one day, somebody showed up in front of Dr. Tiller and killed him. Boom, just like that. That was an act of stochastic terrorism. That's what that is. I have an audience of 350,000 at this immediate moment, give or take, right? That's how many subscribers I have on YouTube at the moment. So my audience is 350,000, say. If I start demonizing somebody, if I start saying that this person is evil and they've done all this bad stuff and somebody should do something about it or whatever else, statistically, if only 0.1% of my audience is not all there mentally, which is a statistically sound assumption to make. Like, some percentage of the population is deeply deranged and has deep issues that need to be worked out, right? So even if 0.1% of my audience is in that place in their lives, in their heads, it only takes one. It only takes one person. If my audience is 350,000 people and only 0.1% are not all there mentally and are willing to do crazy things, that's 350 people. That's 350 people in my audience. If only 10% of those 350 people in my audience have the means and the motive and the opportunity, like they own guns or whatever, they live in the area, it's a recipe for disaster. And that is exactly how it played out with Bill O'Reilly and Dr. Tiller. Now scale that up. Eric Greitens does a political ad where he's going rhino hunting, telling people to get their rhino hunting pass or their rhino hunting license or whatever on his website. At the end of the ad, he said that. There's no bagging limit. There's no tagging limit. Get your license on my website, and we'll keep going until we get America back. That is full-blown stochastic terrorism at best. I think this crossed right into full-blown domestic terrorism. In my opinion, we're reaching that point now. So my point here is there is a line, right? There's a line between yelling fire in a crowded theater or direct calls like, I want somebody to do this or do that. There's a difference between that and stochastic terrorism, which is just demonizing somebody until statistically it's likely that somebody in your audience is going to do something crazy. Legally speaking, I think you're not allowed to directly call for violence. I think that's actually against the law, and you can get in a lot of trouble for it. But you can't be charged for stochastic terrorism, as far as I know. I've never seen a case of that before. In my opinion, you should be able to be charged, or at the very least, sued. I don't think people should be allowed to get away with demonizing people the way that, say, Donald Trump has, and ruining their lives, making the FBI get involved, making them look behind every corner for fear somebody's going to come out and do something to them. It's deeply, deeply wrong. And Trump was the king of stochastic terrorism. And here we have Eric Greitens following in his footsteps. What Eric Greitens did, I don't know if it's illegal or not, but it's right on the edge. It's right on the border between stochastic and outright incitement. Honestly, I don't know if I'll ever find out if this was legal or not, because I don't think he'd be charged either way, being a higher up government official. Anyway, let's keep listening to Morning Joe and hear what else they had to say, because like I said, this clip with Morning Joe, it becomes relevant in a second.
I tried to bring this up, and there were a couple of people that were being polite yesterday going, well, you know, maybe we shouldn't call it fascism, and I don't know whether it's fascism.
My God, come on.
This is using violence and violent imagery to basically tell people, vote for me, a civil war's coming. You know, it's where we are. It's where the Republican Party is right now. And every Republican needs to call this out unless they want fascism to continue to rise in their party.
I agree with Joe completely. Joe, the guy speaking, he is, I think, a Republican. Joe Scarborough is his name. And he has a show with his co-host, Mika Brzezinski. it surprises me that he's talking about fascism in the first place. I don't, maybe he switched parties at this point, who knows? But, you know, Republicans generally don't like to acknowledge it when fascism appears. They don't like to talk about the fact that fascism is here in America. But he's right. This is totally, absolutely, 100% fascism. That's what this is. There's no other way to look at this. Nothing else to call it. It's authoritarianism, it's fascism, it's extremism. So anyways, Eric Greitens goes on Steve Bannon's show to talk about the ad and how it went, talk about Morning Joe addressing it. Listen to this. Late June 2022 is when he went on this.
You know what? I would happily accept an invitation and be happy to go on with Joe and Mika to debate all of those issues. And the reason why they engage in name calling against me, the reason why they engage in name calling against President Trump, the reason why they engage in name calling against all of the true America First candidates and all of the true MAGA leaders is because they can't actually debate on the issues.
See, now he's trying to paint himself as some bastion of freedom of speech. We can resolve all of our problems with our words. That's not what he's trying to do in the ad. He is trying to convince people that the only way that this problem can be solved is through guns. That's what the ad was all about. Suddenly he wants to use words and pretend they're being unreasonable because they won't use words. In my opinion, I know this is controversial. A lot of people don't feel this way or believe this or whatever else. When you bring violence into the conversation, that should be the end of it. There's no more conversation to be had with you. It should come to an abrupt end. I'm not discussing anything with Eric Greitens, and no one else should either. He brought violence into the conversation. It's over now. You have delegitimized yourself in every conversation you have moving forward because you've shown yourself to have an interest in solving problems through violence. And that is an unacceptable solution in my eyes. So, no, Eric, you're not a bastion of free speech. You are so upset at other people's free speech that you are willing to make an advertisement about going rhino hunting over it. There is no legitimacy left to what this guy has to say at this point. A couple of minutes later, he comes out and he says this on Bannon's show. Listen to this next clip.
There's one thing about being provocative. There's another thing about crossing a line. Do you believe, in hindsight, now that it's out, you've seen all the controversy, but you've also seen the traffic I'm sure it's driven to your campaign site, when you balance provocative versus maybe I crossed the line here, where does Eric Greitens come out?
Steve Bannon likes to pretend to be, a centrist. When he asks questions, like, I don't even see the point in pretending. Steve Bannon is not a centrist by any stretch of the imagination. Steve Bannon is a far-right nutcase. There really is no better way to put it.
Oh, we're 100% proud of this ad, Steve. We're glad that it's had over 5 million views. And the fact is, all normal people who actually see this ad, they also see that it is a metaphor.
Yeah, I know. It's a metaphor for Republicans in name only. I caught that. Yeah. I didn't think you were actually going hunting for rhinoceri or whatever they are, rhinoceroses. I didn't think you were going hunting for those. I thought you were talking about Republicans in name only. I got the metaphor you're trying to communicate. Was not lost on me. Just, what is wrong with this guy, honestly? How do you get to this point? Listen to this next clip. This is June 22nd. This is MSNBC's continued coverage of the situation. They got his Democratic opponent on to talk about the ad and about Eric Greitens himself. Check it out.
Eric Greitens is now running for the Senate, and he's running a web ad showing armed men in tactical gear in search of so-called rhinos. Joining me now is Marine veteran Lucas Coons, who's running for the Democratic Senate nomination in Missouri. Well, tell me your reaction to the Greitens ad. We are not playing it. It's on the web, but a number of the tech companies have refused to play it as well because of fears of what it might inspire.
Understandable. Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to play it myself. I decided not to because these other news networks decided not to. So I guess responsibility or whatever.
Fears of what it might inspire. There's enough political violence out there. I would assume you'd agree with that.
Absolutely. And like, here's the thing, like this guy, you read off his crimes, right? He is a criminal. This ad is no surprise. The guy's assaulted people, including his wife and kids, and he's stolen from his veterans charity. Like, this is Eric Greitens showing his true colors. And what we need to make sure we do is we cannot let the Eric Greitens of the world own the discussion. He's a literal criminal, and we have to fight back. You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, we were not trained to look the other way when there was a threat. We faced that threat head on, and we eliminated it. And we have done a response against him. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to fight back against this guy, because that is what the working people of this state absolutely deserve.
That's interesting, right? So I got to thinking to myself, what's all this about criminality? So I looked it up. And sure enough, the dude does have a criminal record. How about that, right? Let's just take a quick glance through his Wikipedia page just to see, like, what's going on with all that. Wikipedia is not the best source, but it's a good source finder. So they have these citations here. You can click on them and follow it to, like, news reports of the whole situation. So I'm comfortable reading from this Wikipedia page knowing that I can access the sources here. As it turns out, the guy was charged and indicted for all kinds of crazy stuff. Listen to this. On January 10th, 2018, ahead of an investigative report released by St. Louis CBS affiliate KMOV the same evening, Greitens publicly disclosed that he had engaged in an extramarital affair with his hairstylist, who only identifies herself as KS. This is coming from a family values candidate, right? This happened in 2015. He and his wife issued a joint statement in which he acknowledged the affair, called it a deeply personal mistake, and that we dealt with it together honestly and privately. Okay, you know what? It's hypocritical because it's coming from a family values candidate. But if he and his wife worked this out between them, who am I to air their dirty laundry? Except it doesn't end there, of course. KMOV played a recording made by the hairstylist's then-husband in which she said that Greitens had invited her to his home, where she had consented to she was blindfolded. In the recording, the hairstylist added that while she was blindfolded, Greitens took pictures of her without her consent and threatened to share them if she ever went public with the affair. She alleges Greitens told her, "You're not going to mention my name. Don't even mention my name to anybody at all, because if you do, I'm going to take these pictures and I'm going to put them everywhere I can." She tried to leave, but reported to a special investigative committee on oversight of the Missouri House of Representatives that Greitens pulled her into a bear hug, common abuse tactic, intimidation tactic, so that she was now lying on the basement floor crying. There's a lot more to this. There's also an indictment for privacy violations and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know how the guy is even a candidate for anything political right now. How is it that you can try to overthrow democracy or get 16 felonies on your record or whatever, corruption charges, you're impeached from office or whatever, anything, and you can run again? How is it possible that there are basically no restrictions on what will keep you out of office? It's absolutely mind-blowing to me. Eric Greitens is obviously an absolutely terrible person. The political ad is just the icing on the cake. The guy has done monstrous things and been indicted for them. Indicted. And he's still a candidate for senator. We have to get out there and vote for the Democratic candidate. And if you can, find other ways to support him. If you can't afford to donate, phone bank for him. If you're in the area, do door knocking for him. Whatever you can. We've got to keep this guy out of office because this kind of political extremism is spreading. We have to do everything we can to stop it at the source. Here's my question. Should we bar people from running for office who act like this, who do things like this? I don't see any way of actually accomplishing that, but if we could, should there be tests in place to prevent people from running for office? And if so, what should those tests be? Right now, there are no tests or preventions for anybody practically to run for office. Like anybody can for any reason. You need absolutely no qualifications. Should there be qualifications? Let me know what you think in the comments.